Welcome to the FemiNinja Project. I am your host, Cheryl I Love, middle-aged ninja hiding in plain sight, dedicated to restoring human dignity one person at a time and helping you unleash your personal power. Discover that it's possible to look like a woman, act like a lady, move like a ninja, and think like a warrior. And remember, men are always welcome on the FemiNinja Project. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And one of the things that I like to do with the FemiNinja Project is to educate people, let them know what is out there, some of the things that they can try out that can really help with their health, their fitness, their wellness, just to keep moving and to do other things. And boy, do I have an expert with me today. I've got a fantastic guest who knows an awful lot about that, who's going to share his story with us. His name is Radoslaw Kokoszka, but his friends just call him Radek. So I would like to welcome Radek. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Cheryl, and hello, everybody.
Thanks for being here. I know I've been looking forward to this ever since we had this fantastic conversation last week when I came to ballet class and we went out for tea and had a really wonderful conversation. And you really have an amazing background, not only as a ballet dancer and teacher and choreographer, but also just your approach and how you teach ballet and how you look at people. I've been in your class many, many times, and you're just so positive, you're so encouraging, and you have an incredible sense of humor too when you teach. And I think that's really important.
Thank you. You're right, it is.
Because people, I think, have a lot of hang-ups, especially when it comes to their self-image, their physical bodies. A lot of us have, maybe even been body shamed over the years, and it really takes a toll on us. So how do you think ballet can help people with their self-image?
Ballet is just wonderful for that. And the reason why is because of it synchronizes the brain as we move both of our entire body in sync. It synchronizes both of our brain sides, and it's just really elevates the spirit, the mind. It, it lifts the person, it lifts the being up. Just as simple as that.
I always say it's the mind, body, and spirit, that it really feeds the soul. And, I think I've told you, I started dancing at the age of 20, and it's been a very important part of my life for 40 years plus. And the times that I had to quit because of injuries or other things getting in the way, it just really ripped at my soul.
And that's exactly what happened to me. I was injured at a very, very early stage in my dance career, and I just wanted to do better than myself again and again, and it just took a toll on me. And also, the teaching it hasn't really progressed or isn't just as effective as it is nowadays, especially because of all the different therapies that are incorporated and different mind exercises that are being incorporated into ballet training. And you see it sometimes, you see it somewhere. Some people will start incorporating it, and a lot of folks are still, just do it again and again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
I am from Poland, and when there were communists until '89, and that's how communism worked. You just keep drilling it to people, and I think ballet has been a little bit like that too. You just keep drilling it, and with today's technology, it doesn't have to be that way. You can learn in a safe environment. You can learn in an environment where you can make mistakes, and the ballet teacher will not look at you with an evil eye or start, because that's one of the biggest problems. And a lot of adults are afraid of coming to ballet class because that's what they get. They get a lot of professional dancers with a lot of attitudes and a lot of snobbiness, and they just
it's not a comfortable situation for someone who's just trying to explore ballet for the first time in their lives. So let me ask you this. You're talking about the repetitive motion and everything, which is, well, number one, it's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But I'm going to go back a little bit more. When you did get injured, is that what made you look at ballet in a different way, a different approach? Because as I said, I've been in your classes many times, And there is a wide variety of levels, even in the classes that I've taken, from people who haven't had a lot of experience to professional dancers. And your approach is just so encompassing to each and every person. You kind of individualize, corrections even for each person rather than a general, beating the stick, everybody do it this way.
Yes, and yes, it is a more or less a new approach with it being back in the day, let's say, even these days, if you go to Paris Opera Ballet or Royal Ballet School, they will only search for a specific body type, for a specific, and then they will see if the mind is there to be able to do this properly. Um, Now it's a little bit different. Everybody's different and everybody wants to dance. It's not anymore like in Poland it used to be if you didn't have the body, you were not able to dance. It just didn't happen for you. Here, we live in a beautiful country where if you feel like dancing, taking a ballet class, you can, and no one's there to stop you, which is a beautiful thing, and I think we should all take advantage of that.
So you are from Poland, and you started dancing at the age of 11 in Poland.
Yes.
And then you immigrated to the United States at the age of 13 with your family, correct?
Yes, my family moved here, and of course, both of my sisters were exquisite pianists. They were beautiful, super talented. They came to United States, and of course, my mom, she's very artistic oriented, and she wanted to continue our training. So, before you know it, she found a ballet class for me, and I started dancing. I graduated from School of American Ballet in New York City.
Wow.
That is the School of New York City Ballet.
So let me just interrupt you for one moment, please, because that's a very prestigious school and very difficult to get into.
Yes, and actually, as a matter of fact, the first time I auditioned for the summer program, I didn't get in.
Were you crushed?
So no, I was not, because I fortunately had beautiful teachers that were, you know what, you never know, it's the right timing has to happen, and at the right moment. So I wasn't crushed because the next year I did get in. I tried it again, and it just, I guess.
Just having that experience of auditioning once.
Yes, and failure, that's the most important thing. It's fail again and again and again until we succeed, and that was one of those lessons in life.
Now, that is something I really want to emphasize because that is an important life lesson, is we do fail over and over and over again, and failing is an important part of learning.
Especially in ballet, because we will fail in ballet class the moment we start. And that's why so many adults don't come to ballet, because it's just so hard on our brains. It's just so difficult, and yet it is so simple, but it just takes that repetition of that movement to start developing the right muscles in the brain in order to just get the basics down, and then from there you can just adjust. Like you said, each individual is different. Each individual will take corrections differently. Some people don't like corrections. They like to learn on their own, and that's okay too. But bottom line is that we are all here to learn, and just make it positive and make it. And the reason why I'm like this is because of my injuries, and also my experience teaching students, teaching kids, teaching adults. They taught me a lot about how to teach, because I failed so many of them. I feel like, but they also taught me a lot on how to approach people and individuals, and that's the most important thing. And I see the difference with my adults. When I first started teaching adult classes, I just came and just taught a class, and I had adults being okay, they come and go, and they didn't really get into it, and I was like, well, it's my fault. It has to be somehow my fault because they're leaving. So it took me a couple years to find how to relate to adults that are non-dance folks. They just don't have anything to do with dance. And I had some people that they couldn't dance in their childhood because their parents or their religion or their beliefs or whatever did not allow them to move their bodies, which I think is ridiculous. But there are those folks, and they came to my class and they tried it, and a lot of them staying, and they're just loving it so much, and just their confidence, even as adults, because we always in dance world, or most of the time when I talk to people about teaching kids, it's always focused on kids and how, but and how it builds their confidence and how it really creates that focus in their minds, and we don't really talk about how it changes adults, and it changes adults tremendously. I have one adult student. I also teach in Estes Park. I have an adult class there at 2:30 p.m. on Tuesdays.
So if anybody is in the Estes Park area, do check him out, and we will include all of that information so you'll be able to find Rad pretty quickly and easily.
Yes. So what were we? We were talking.
So I just wanted to go back. We were talking about the adults in ballet class and stuff, and the kids, and how ballet is really geared more toward children, or that's what people think. It's like if you're taking ballet, you're either a child,
yes,
or you're a professional, and even the mindset is if you're a professional, your career is over probably before you're 30, but that's not true any longer. But it's really funny how many times I'll mention, oh yeah, well I just came from ballet class, or I'm going to ballet class, and people give me a blank look and they say, oh, you mean you're teaching? And it's like, no, I'm not teaching, I'm taking. And they have a hard time wrapping their head around that. So I think that it's starting to change, that older adults can experience ballet. And when you were talking about some of the people that maybe didn't take classes as a child because of either monetary reasons, their parents wouldn't allow it, their religious beliefs or whatever, talk about some of the adults that you've worked with that came in who have never taken classes before, and then all of a sudden had the opportunity to take class. And I was thinking of two in particular that you were telling me about last week when we had tea, that if you can remember that.
Yes, absolutely, and that's partly why we have this podcast today for everybody, is to kind of give you guys examples and just different life situations that hopefully will encourage you to take ballet class, whether it's somewhere near you. If there's a ballet school near your house, go give it a try. But there isn't too much for adults, and adults, we're so busy also. So it's like, sometimes ballet, it seems to be such a big commitment, but it doesn't have to be. I tell my students, maybe in 10 years it will happen. We just have to, just don't push it, just allow for it to happen on its own. And I have a class in Estes Park, and actually it took us maybe 3 years, and we started doing pirouettes.
Oh,
and
nice.
We are and everybody's going the right direction. And that it just took 3 years for everybody to figure out which leg we're on, and how to turn, and how to do it the right way. And back to the adults, my adults. One of my friends, he's on the board of directors of the organization that I'm co-directing. It's called Ballet Renaissance. He's a pathologist. He's a brain pathologist, and he studied George Balanchine's brain. He actually held George Balanchine's brain in his head. For those of you that are new to ballet, George Balanchine was a Russian American choreographer that emigrated to this country at the beginning of 20th century, and he created New York City Ballet and School of American Ballet, which I'm from. And we had many conversations about the brain and the neuroplasticity, which you mentioned last week, which when I had my injury in New York, I went back to Detroit, and I started teaching in schools with delinquent kids. It was one of the worst neighborhoods in Detroit with the worst kids. And they loved ballet. They loved it. I mean, it was incredible to see, because ballet is really frowned upon, especially in lower income neighborhoods and stuff. And it's not a tough thing to do, although it is.
Yeah, it is.
It gets your mind, really, really toughens your mind and your body, and it's just great for you. I have some of my students, so we had lots of conversations about the kids and how just keeping the chin up will change their thought pattern, which in turn will change their brain function and structure.
Absolutely.
In a positive light. And same thing happens for adults. I mean, I've had one of my main example is Miss Becky. She's lovely lady, and for many years she tried to come to ballet, and she just never. She went online and started to research, how do I get to ballet class. She feels like she's obese and this, that, and the other, and she always has her chest sinked in and shoulders down, and and one day she came up with an article that somebody wrote that said, it doesn't matter if you're fat, if you're this, if you're that, just get in there, and that's the first steps to do it, to change your brain. And she finally came to class. It took her 3 years to come to class.
Wow.
And she started taking my class, and one day she came with her chin up, just walked in and started talking to everybody like she owns the place. And I was like, wow, that's beautiful. But it took a couple years for that to happen, and we are all learning. and it just takes some time. There's going to be lots of frustrations and and I think a lot of people don't even start ballet. They come to one ballet class and like, this is impossible, I'm leaving. And it just takes, it's going to be impossible for some of us. It's going to be impossible for many years, but we're just there, we're going to be doing it, and then all of a sudden things will happen for you, and you will reach that state of flow, and you'll be like, you know what, I'm really enjoying this. I really, I'm really happy that I took the initial steps to learn this ballet art form.
Well, even just starting what you said about lifting the chin, lifting the chest, it makes such a difference in your outlook and how you feel about yourself. I mean, you can tell by somebody's posture how they carry themselves and how they move, how they feel about themselves.
Yes.
And when you see somebody with that forward head, the round shoulders, the chest caved, this does not look like a strong person. And I always say, like, from the ninja aspect of it, that makes people an easy target, not only for an attacker, but there's all kind of different type of victimology.
Absolutely.
But when somebody walks in with their shoulders broad, their chest lifted, it's a completely different presentation to the world, not only externally, but to their own personal
self-image.
Yeah. It's huge.
Absolutely, and it is a technology that we don't utilize as much as we want to, and we don't understand it as much as we would love to. But just the only way we can learn is to get in there and start doing it. That's the only way we can comprehend. What are the next steps in our lives or whatever.
I have to tell you, when I first started, because I was like 20 years old, I was in college, and my cousin dragged me to my first ballet class, kicking and screaming the whole way. I wasn't going to do it. And, she just showed up at my dorm room one Saturday morning with an extra pair of ballet slippers and leotard. And it's like, well, okay, I guess I'll go, and I'm going to hate it. And even that first class, I absolutely fell in love with it. And the thing about starting as a beginning adult student, in my experience and a lot of the other women that I met along the way, and even some of the guys, is that it was magical. Because as an adult, sometimes as a child, if your parents are dragging you to ballet class, it's like, oh, I don't want to go to ballet, they don't really appreciate what a gift it is. But as an adult, if you've always kind of wanted to do it and then you just take that plunge, it's truly magical, because you're surrounded with a bunch of people who share the same passion that you do. Even though you can't really even do a correct tendu, doesn't really matter. The music is beautiful. You're trying something new, and it's so uplifting. It didn't start to get challenging until I started to figure out what I was doing.
Yes, absolutely. And I see a lot of that with kids too. Kids, they think they know it all, and they learn how to do a tendu, and they think they perfected it, and they get a lot of boredom out of it too, because their minds are not ready of the sophistication of how that tendu actually needs to be and how it needs to feel, and it just takes time and patience to be able to accomplish all of that. But yeah, it's never too late to start. I have one student that's 74 years old. She started ballet with me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And the most amazing thing that I've discovered in the past couple of years teaching adults, especially older adults, is this strength that they get just from their ankles. And I've been making jokes with some of my friends, like, why old people die? It's they die because they break their ankles, they fall and they break their ankle, their hip, and that's the end of it. And to see the strengthening of those ankles just from 1 week class or twice a week class, I'm just like, okay, there's gonna be less death tolls thanks because of this. I don't know who's gonna appreciate that, but it's just so powerful. I never expected that. I saw people at 74 years old doing Grand Plie. Grand Plie is a big knee. You go down all the way to the floor, squatting, kind of like a squat. And older people can't do big squats. Their ankles just don't do it. And to be able to see a 74-year-old lady that be able to do that after a year or two, or being balanced on both of her with both of her feet, on the releve, which is on your demi point, being able to hold it for 8 counts
and balance.
Yeah, kind of, and starting with 0.1 second, not being able to do anything, to that sheer strength that it builds, and you build that strength through really enjoying yourself, having fun. It's my style of teaching is it's a mud style, I would say, or it's kind of we're probably going to need to cut this part right here. But the way the way I teach stylistically is I utilize all sorts of styles. Ballet technique is a theory. It was written as a theory and it continues to be a theory. And then you have different styles to that theory and you have different flares of individual teachers. And I like to incorporate whatever is fun and whatever doesn't get me bored, because the moment I get bored is everybody else starts getting bored, and I can get bored, and professional dancers can get bored very easily if you've done it for so many years. So yeah, and I don't force anybody to learn anything. I want people to allow for that learning to happen on their own, for it to not think about, oh my god, I have to learn this combination, because you know what, it's okay. It's gonna take, I've had this one very simple exercise that I did in adult class up in Estes Park, and we've worked on that exercise maybe a full year, and we're just getting it. But you know what, and nobody is being forced, and of course there's life comes along the way, you have to skip some classes, you can't, but the beautiful thing about ballet is it repeats itself. It's the same exercises, but it's different because the emotions are different, the day is different, your mental state is different. So the way we apply that work from our mental state each time in ballet class is going to be different in the physical. If you go to a gym, if you do a sport, you just focus on, let's say, a lap. I want to beat this lap. And your focus is going to be on that lap, beating that lap. In ballet, it's going to be, yeah, you're going to have your goals, but you're not gonna come in and say, my goal is to do 10 pirouettes today, and if I don't do them, then I'm gonna be crying for the rest of my life,
or giving it up.
And that's what happens a lot of times. People are like, this is too difficult, I'm gonna give up. And the difficult things, once you challenge yourself, they will become very, very simple and very, very easy for everyone.
Right. Well, and I like to tell people that if it was easy, if it were easy, then, why would we do it? Because there'd be no point. And I just want to kind of, again, backtrack a little bit. If you heard those sirens in the background, and I'm sure you did, they weren't coming to get us. We are recording this episode in a beautiful part of Denver, the Art District. So there is a lot of traffic. So I do apologize for that, but I didn't want to stop because Radek was on a roll and he was saying some really important things and making some great points. Some of them, which is, we're really not working. I mean, a lot of people think that ballet is a lot of hard work, and yes, it is. But when you approach it in just having fun and a playful way, I mean, we're adults, we're not going to be professionals, that's okay. So when you kind of change the mindset of, you're going to screw up, you're going to make mistakes, but that's okay because that is how we learn. And then, do you agree?
Absolutely, and you know what? A lot of times it's gonna feel ridiculous. The things that we do in class, we might feel really, really. It's like, is this a joke? What is this? But there's a reason. There's a point behind all the steps and all the movements and the approach of it in order to make it easier for us to learn. And with today's, like I said, with today's technology and today's understanding of neuroplasticity and how brain works, it's much gentler on us than it was for the past couple thousand years.
Well, even when I started, as an adult, there were a few classes that I took as a beginner, and I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, you got the mahogany sticks and stuff that people used to use, and they don't do that anymore. So you just walk in there and you have a good time. But even if, you think you're not learning, subconsciously your brain is taking all of this in, every single thing that you do. And again, the combination with the music, the steps, the spatial organization, and the socialization. And I don't know if you've seen this, but there have been many, many studies done that actually dance is the best form of prevention of aging, dementia, Alzheimer's, because it activates so many neural connections that it's actually anti-aging. And then you're adding the other physical aspect of like the ankle strength, which is really huge. And I think it's a combination not only of the ankle strength, but of the lifting of the head.
Yes.
Because when you're looking down all the time, which happens sometimes when we mature, I don't like to use the word age, but we look down and that throws off our center of gravity and our center of, our whole self. It's just we're walking in a way that's a series of falls instead of gliding, right?
Well, dancers are clumsy when we're not dancing, so.
So tell people why that dancers are clumsy when we're not dancing.
I guess we just forget about. I guess everything is a choreography to us. I assume. If I had the answers, I definitely would share with everybody.
Well,
one thing that I wanted to mention when you were speaking just now is it really sets your emotional intelligence into balance.
Oh, yes.
Because we're just emotionally such a wreck these days, especially because everything is coming at us. And coming to ballet class and listening to beautiful music and moving beautifully and coordinating your entire body, it really coordinates your emotional state and how to be for the rest of the day. And just setting that for yourself, taking care of yourself, because it really that's what a lot of diseases come from, is emotional imbalance and how we treat others, and it just translates onto our bodies and onto ourselves.
Dis-ease. And that's something I learned in Feldenkrais, the neuroplasticity and stuff, is when we have ease in our bodies, then we have ease in our mind. I mean, it all works together. And when we don't have that balance like you're talking about, you're right. That's because then we develop dis-ease, and those are diseases that can be prevented with healthy movement.
Yes, absolutely. And
I've got to tell you, if anybody out there is considering taking a beginning ballet class, which I would highly recommend it, if you're in this area, we'll have all of the contact information for you to contact Radek and get even more information. But when you first walk in and then leave your first ballet class, it's almost magical. It's almost like you're transcended to another universe or
and
whatever.
one thing I want to point out, and that's just from my experience, is that a lot of not a lot, but there will be some adults that want to start ballet, but they will internalize it within. They will just come in and they will try it, and they will struggle without really trying to interact with others or the teacher or ask questions. They would just kind of try to figure out on their own, and then they kind of leave. They kind of give up. It's because they internalize this beautiful art form. And ballet is about sharing. It's about expressing emotions to the audience, to others, and by coming in with an approach of internalizing everything, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for you, at least at the beginning, until you are willing to let go. And you know what? And if something doesn't make sense, because none of it's going to make sense. Ballet just doesn't make sense.
No.
I mean, it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. The more you dig into it, the less sense it makes. But yeah, just definitely do not internalize it. Just go there with an open mind and just see what's up, and see where it will take you.
That's a really important point to make, because I think sometimes if you go into a beginning ballet class and someone has been there, longer and they're starting to catch on, or you see somebody walk in and who does things beautifully, you're like, oh, I'll never be that good, I'll never be able to do that. And that's not the way to approach it. When you see somebody who's doing something very well, you can learn from them and just,
Absolutely.
It's the mirror neurons. Again, we're going into that neuroplasticity. So your synapses, your neural, structures are actually taking it all in, and your brain is computing it.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah, just being open-minded about the whole process and allowing it to happen. And you know what? You might want to, some people might try it, and then it's not for them. And then 10 years from now, they're like, hey, it will come back, it will come in a circle. It's like, now maybe I'm ready. Maybe I'm not ready here. Maybe somebody's going to hear this podcast and be like, you know what, I'm going to try this. It didn't work. And maybe 20 years from now, they're like, you know what, now I begin to understand.
Right.
Maybe we're not all prepared yet,
Exactly.
for
Exactly.
this.
Well, I know even as long as I've been dancing, I still sometimes have like epiphanies. I have like aha moments.
Oh,
and
yes.
I will take a notebook. I always have one in my purse, and I'll jot down some things that I've, have popped into my head, and it really kind of makes it even more in my body, and in my brain. And I still want to talk about again, and because this is so important, is the 74-year-old doing a grand plie.
Yes.
Because, our joints crave motion. We need to move them to get the synovial fluid, to get that
get
kind
the
of
blood going. Absolutely.
The lymphatics, everything, but the balance. And to see somebody who's never done a plie before, who can do a grand plie, let me tell you something, there's a lot of people out there that can't. But that, again, goes hand in hand with healthy aging. There said the A word.
Yes, and the mind, and the mindset, the emotional state of the mind.
And the mind-body connection.
Yes, and a lot of times it's missing in ballet classes.
Yeah.
And you know what, if anybody is interested in starting ballet, just going and finding the right people. You know, we don't click with some people sometimes. You know, some teacher might rub you the wrong way, or you know, you might get offended very quickly. Now, if a lot of ballet teachers, they will be very offensive at times. I've had experiences that they are just very rude and offensive, and it's changing now in the dance world. I think it's finally trickling down from the top, because it was vicious at the top back in the day. But I think it's finally, you know, the more we understand ourselves, I think the easier it becomes. And finding the right people, and you know, if the vibe has to be there. If it doesn't feel right, maybe, you know, find something else. But find something.
Yeah, it's another way of listening to your body. And even if you do try ballet and the ballet isn't resonating with you, there are so many other dance forms. I mean, I'm just such a huge fan of any kind of dance. I mean, geez, even just turn on the radio and dance in your kitchen.
Yes, there was this guy back in the day. What was his name? He was a little guy. He did aerobics for women. It was a TV guy.
What was his name? Richard Simmons.
Richard Simmons, yes.
Yes.
Good times. Yeah, but you know what? It works. It works. It helps the mind to be healthy, you know, and the body.
It really does. So, well, is there anything else that you want to, any little tips or pearls of wisdom or anything else that you want to leave us with?
Just keep an open mind and just do it for yourself. Do it for yourself, and by doing it for yourself, it will impact others in a positive way. And if you want to find out more about who we are, you may go on our website. It's www.balletren, BALLETREN.org. I'm going to post some things about this adult class that starts on Mondays at the Sweatshop. Sweatshop is located at Santa Fe.
I think it's 930 Santa Fe Drive, but it's a beautiful studio, very comfortable, easy to get to. They do have a parking lot. It is in the Art District, Santa Fe Drive in Denver, if you are in the area. And it's just a wonderful space. So really do consider checking it out. Again, it's the Sweatshop.
It's at 937 Santa Fe Drive, Denver, Colorado.
Oh, how about my brain? I was close.
Yeah, 80202. There's a little coffee shop across the street. You can grab a little bite or a tea before class. The classes are happening on Mondays at 9:30 a.m. And me and Cheryl, we're starting them for anyone that is interested. Please pass this podcast to anybody that would be interested. If you know somebody that would be interested in starting something, or if you feel like somebody is needs a little bit boost in their life, send them our way, and we'll be able to provide that for them.
Or a little bit of a push. And it's actually something fun to do if you find a friend. Their safety numbers, something maybe that you always wanted to do. It's a great way to not only meet people, but to do something with a friend of yours too. So it's a great. I can't say enough about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can contact us through our website. You can also find us on Facebook, whatever, at Ballet Ren again. And yes, send us a message if you have any questions. Send a message to Cheryl. She will forward. She can forward your information to us. And looking forward to meeting each and every one of you.
And Radek, thank you so much for being here. I got to tell you, you're my third guy that I've had on the FemiNinja project.
Beautiful.
So, I'm trying to get more men because I love to hear men's voices, and I think that you guys have a lot to share with us too. So,
cool.
Thank you so much, and I'll see you at the bar.
Yes, we'll see you.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap on another episode of the FemiNinja Project. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, be safe, be strong, and until next time, bye now.